So, what does it take to achieve a successful migration from CPQ to Revenue Cloud? Well, it's this migration trifecta of the market leading data migration platform from Prodly, a purpose built custom app, this migration tool that we've been building for the past several months, working closely with Salesforce that is built on top of our platform but addresses this specific use case of CPQ to Revenue Cloud migration. And last but not least, and very important piece is the advisory services, the design and implementation services delivered by the trusted Revenue Cloud SIs that you've been working with. And if you don't have one, we're happy to recommend some really great partners that we've been working with who can help you think through the new product's architecture and really fully take advantage of the new functionality that is now available. And as we go through different functional areas of CPQ and how they map to Revenue Cloud, you'll understand why you'll need some advisory services, right? And again, whether you use external partners or if you have in-house capabilities for that, that's also fine. But the point is, there really is no one-click migration from CPQ to Revenue Cloud. It's a different product, different architecture. There's definitely some similarities, and certain concepts translate pretty well, but others do not. And even for the concepts that do translate well, again, to take full advantage of a more robust data model and the capabilities in the product, you really should do some refactoring and some redesign of your product catalog, your pricing, etc. So I want to talk a little bit about the migration framework that we sort of put in place. And when we think about migration, it's kind of like breaking in different functional areas into these three buckets, into these three categories of migration. So one is automated, right, which is a complete or near complete migration. You'll see some examples of that, but product catalog, the bundles is a good example of that, where you can take a CPQ bundle and pretty well translate it into a Revenue Cloud bundle. Will it take advantage of all the new functionality that exists in Revenue Cloud? Right? No, it's the lowest common denominator migration, but that's where your internal or external resources solution architects come in. Bucket number two is what we call assisted migration. So this is where some automation is possible, but manual intervention is required either before and or post migration. And the last bucket is what we call manual, which is either there is no equivalent functionality, maybe yet, maybe never, or there is an equivalent functionality, but it's architected so differently that there really is no way to migrate from CPQ to Revenue Cloud for that area. And price rules is a great example of that. All right, so now that we have the migration framework set, let's talk about the migration process really quickly, and then we'll kind of dive into each of these steps, and I'll talk in more detail about what each of them entails and show you some screenshots of the tool we've been building to help you walk through this process. So the migration process is that when we think about migration process, it's kind of like these 6 steps, right? So step 1 is analysis, right? Like you want to take a stock of your CPQ implementation to understand, what's going on, what does the configuration data look like in there, and do you have any problems that any issues with the configuration data that could be problems during the migration process. So step 2 is migrating product catalog, right? So it's options, features, product bundles, and CPQ, product rules, and everything has to do with the product catalog. So step 3 is migrating pricing. Step 4 is transactions. Spoiler alert, not a lot to migrate there, but we'll cover that in that step. And then step 5 is the install base, which is your contracts, subscriptions, and assets in CPQ. And of course, a very important step 6 is quality assurance, right? You want to test, make sure everything is working as you intended.